Good evening and welcome to the May 28th, 2025 Ashland School Committee meeting. I will be chairing the meeting just for a moment as we have a reorganization of the school committee as typical after the Board of the elections through the town. But let me get the agenda started first, as we always do with our vision statement. The Ashland Public Schools strives to be a model district that creates a culture of inclusivity for our diverse students and staff who feel safe and supported, are empowered with the academic and social emotional skills to pursue their chosen path, and embrace their roles as positive contributors to local and global communities. We are having this recorded through WACA Cable TV. Our opening procedures, agenda review and adoption first, public participation, administrative item, reorganization of the school committee, and we'll go back to those items. Reports and presentations, I'm going to ask the school committee to allow for the superintendent's report to be moved up, and as part of my report, I'm going to have the Ashland Middle School do a presentation today with regard to the playbook, and they're here. So then Warren School Improvement Plan Update, Warrant Approvals, short Assistant Superintendent's report, right, Dr. Kyra? Excellent. And then some action items. AHS cross-country trip to Vermont. It's their second annual. Thetford? Yeah. A WACA request in terms of participation for future school committee summer retreat dates, superintendent's evaluation process, first read of a number of policies, and then the consent agenda. And reports to school committees, and then to adjourn. So are we okay with that agenda? Yes. And the adjustments? Great, thanks. So the first thing we'll do is reorganization of the school committee. As I mentioned, after the elections, we then come before the committee to choose first the chair of the school committee for the next school year. So I'm looking to take a motion for a nominee for the chair of the school committee.
I will nominate Ms. Tosti to set a statewide record.
A statewide record. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on Ms. Tosti, and does Ms. Tosti so accept the nomination? Okay. I don't know if we.
Why don't you bring
yeah. I don't know if we need a roll call for this, but all in favor of Ms. Tosti becoming the chair for the 25-26 school year?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Now I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Did you,
Okay.
did you vote for yourself?
I abstain.
3-0-1 then.
Next up is the vote for the vice chair. Do we have any nominations for that?
I don't see any reason to change if he's still willing to do it, so I would nominate Mr. Terry.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
I'll vote for myself. I'm not sure.
Just to throw monkey wrenches in the minutes.
Yeah.
Something to check next.
Okay, and we need to nominate a secretary.
I'll nominate Tina to be our secretary.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Do you want to vote for yourself?
Appreciate that. But thank you for taking that job. Next up, I'm going to ask if there are any members of the public that want to give public comment. Seeing none, we will move on to our agenda where we are going to start with the superintendent's report and the AMS presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm super excited tonight to be here and to not be the one speaking. I have 4 amazing 8th grade students here who are going to talk about the work they did to run playbook workshops with students over the past 4 weeks or so. We did 2 workshops. They're going to speak and tell you all about it. And I think Grady is also going to share a little bit about the work he did with Project 351 and the project that he did through that organization as well. So come on up, guys.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, I'm Grady, and I led the playbook workshops, and with the Project 351 project that I participated in, we held a clothing drive at our school, and we collected 25 bags of clothing. And with the playbook workshops, Sammy Levinson, huge thanks to him, he handwrote all of the scenarios and stuff that we did straight from the playbook website just so we could do it at our middle school, even though he's a high school senior. And Miss McCucci, who is here, she let us use her classroom for both of the workshops, which was very helpful, so that we didn't have to find another place to do it. I participated in the Zoom meetings where I was taught on how to lead the playbook workshops, and a bunch of people came and talked to us on the Zooms. Playbook is a workshop that trains kids for real life scenarios and to be a leader in their community. And during the workshops, I opened it up, and then I introduced Vedant, who led.
Hello everyone, my name is Vedant Absangi, and I had the opportunity to lead the icebreakers during our second playbook workshop. For the activity, we showed students a series of zoomed-in images and asked them to guess what each object was. Once the full image was revealed, we discussed how our initial guesses could be completely different from reality, just like how people can have different perspectives and interpretations. This fun and interactive game helped us connect to one of the key themes of our workshop, understanding and respecting diverse viewpoints.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Claire Jakes. At the Playbook Workshop, I led the Agree-Disagree segment. During this, people would move to one side of the room depending on their stances on topics. We discussed if students agreed or disagreed with statements about race, leadership, religion, and gender. And I was really interested to see their different stances on these topics.
Hi, I'm Phoebe Smith, and in the Playbook workshops, we ran scenarios that represented real-life problems and true issues that people face. Everyone would participate and share in their small groups how they would react to the scenario, but also had volunteers share to the whole group what their views were and what they discussed. The scenarios were very diverse and covered many present topics in today's society like race, religion, and gender.
So I think important to note for these four is that playbook workshops are normally run by high school students for middle school students. And CME came and ran the first workshop for us and really took the lead. And then due to his schedule with AP testing and other senior commitments, he was not able to come back. And these four did not hesitate at all to step up and take the lead to run just among their own peers of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders and lead really tough conversations on difficult topics. And Ms. Mikuchi, I don't know if she wants to speak, but following the second session, really highlighted on feeling like it was one of the best workshops that AMS has had, and the takeaway of students in our building really being ready to have these conversations and wanting to impact change. So I think of really important note again is that these guys stepped up and did something that typically their age peers are not comfortable doing, and they did an amazing job leading. I am going to miss all of them. I wish I could keep them for a few more years. They are going to have a huge impact in life and at the high school especially. So excellent job, guys. Ms. Mikuchi, you have anything to add? So we have a running list now of topics that, are specific to AMS that students identified are issues that we want to tackle, and we're going to work on ways to try and hit more students with the playbook workshop and be able to work on that next year. So that's a goal of ours.
Just a quick question. Was this a new program for us this year? Or is it going on
It is not a new program, third year that have been involved with it. And Sammy really stuck with it in high school and continued, and I have no doubt that these guys are going to continue being leaders, and I'm sure we'll welcome them back next year to help us run some workshops with the middle school. So, yeah.
Wow, it sounds like it was a really meaningful experience and that you guys are real leaders in your building and that you'll carry that with you. And it sounds like, do you think a lot of your peers at school got a lot out of it?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it made a big impact on the people who were there, and hopefully that they will spread it throughout the rest of the school with their peers in each of their grade.
Did you think that it started any conversations, like people would talk about things outside of the workshop that they might not have talked about before?
Yeah, definitely that, and they could, if they see some of the scenarios that we were in, that we showed them, then they could implement what we did in the workshops into real life and maybe stop a bullying scenario or someone making fun of someone else.
That's awesome. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
thank you
work,
so
guys.
much. We
Great
really
work.
appreciate you. You're awesome. Great job. Okay.
And as always, you're welcome to leave. You don't need,
Yes,
yeah, you don't need to stay here for the next,
exactly.
X amount of minutes.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate
That was
you.
awesome.
Thanks.
Pete, thank you, guys. Warren School Improvement Plan Update.
I will bring this up, Pete.
Thank you.
Is that the entirety of your report, Jim?
That was it.
Okay,
Yes.
second.
Well,
Wait,
yeah,
So hold on a second.
well,
You get to take credit in the superintendent's report for that?
Yeah.
thank you.
Good evening. Just to thank our council members, Lori Tosti is our representative from the school committee, Kathy Canny, Tiffany Farrell as two of our teachers, Erica Linares, our assistant principal, as a non-voting member, Caitlin Montes-Diorca as a parent, Donna Shaw as a community member. The team works very closely together, and thankfully this team has been together for some time now. So they work extremely well and share ideas together. Some highlights that I just want to point out that were accomplished this year. Our work, we were in year 2 with S3, which is a group through DESE. We not only met, we exceeded our expectations this year in our group, and we were actually selected as one of 3 communities to get and speak in front of the state group for the S3s. And the staff did an amazing job of just sharing our successes, our challenges, and advising some other towns. And it turned so much that the afternoon workshops that the S3 group had designed, they changed them and they asked for us to continue our presentation, and we had over 40 participants just to sit in to listen to ours, which was every elementary member of the group session. So again, great accolades to the S3 team and what they've been doing in their rollouts at our school. As well, our data teams continue of where we're looking at identifying specific needs for our students and creating plans that are differentiated. Our community service projects are really getting a little more traction right now, of where we've had cards and letters going to different members of our communities, mainly focusing on our seniors. As well, our second graders have taken on a role of just cleaning up the playground and making sure that Lost and Found actually comes into the building, doesn't get left outside. And as well, as you'll see as a later goal, our ST math champions. We've had second graders and now first graders as well that are actually going into other classrooms to help students in their problem solving. Our goal to continue as part of this grant is to have 80% of our journey completed by the end of the school year. As a school, we've already surpassed 91%. Kindergarten, who got a slow start last year because of a technology rollout, they've already met 100% of the journey being met. Grade 1 has met 88%, grade 2 has met 83%. So again, just some great work that's been happening from our old plan of what was going. This year, the additional pieces that are new for us, it's continuing these other pieces, but a big push from our site council is to improve our volunteerism at our school and to get back to pre-pandemic levels, to bring out new ideas that are coming through. We've surveyed families this year to gather some thoughts and ideas, and it's more about how we can bring people back into our school more often. As well, continuing to be a unified school champion through the Special Olympics. This year, Erica Zipsey has been serving as year 2 as our liaison for our school. Not only was Erica selected to be a presenter at the fall conference, but she's also been highlighted twice in their newsletter updates of where they're writing stories about what is happening at Warren School and how we're being inclusive and making sure that we're supporting our students and our families. So something that I'm very proud of how we've been working through this. Finally, the last major shift for us, which will be a lot of work for us, is revamping our report card. And it's really about making sure that our report card is more parent-friendly and making sure that it's written for the audience, who is the parent of a child, so this way they can understand how their child is doing, how they're progressing through the grade level skills, how they're doing with social emotional skills, all of these aspects. What we have found from our work in talking to parents in the community is the first trimester, parents really don't gain a lot of insight because they're based on end-of-the-year expectations. So they struggle with saying they're not sure how their child does, and thankfully our teachers do a great job communicating throughout and through their parent-teacher conferences, but this is one of the large drivers for us to make these changes that we need. So next year, we'll be looking to create that, bringing it to the school committee for approval, and then with an implementation during the 26-27 school year.
I don't.
Going, what do you mean my kid's not it? You know, whatever.
I just skipped down to the comments, especially for the first half of the year.
Which is unfortunate that that's what most parents are doing. And it's really, we do need to make changes so that it's written for our audience, not for the staff.
And even the staff, right? So on them. If the only real communication is going to happen in the comments and that the other work they're doing isn't meaningful, then, you know, to communicate to the parents, then they're wasting their time too. So it's going to be efficient all around.
Right, but it's not like a 5-minute, even though it seems like a simple, you know, you've got to make sure that it's in line with what Mindus is doing, and there's a lot more to it to make sure that it's consistent and that it's all your staff
Jenna
is on board
Loreniga
with
and I
it.
have been working together to coordinate these efforts. And then as well, you know, as Lori just mentioned, and it's been a large part of our conversations at the site council, it also impacts all the curriculum that we're using, the assessment plans that we're doing when these conversations take place, and to make sure that everything aligns with the plans. Because we do have some thoughts about making some changes and to make things, again, so that it's serving the purpose of informing parents of how their child is performing.
Pete, I have a couple of different questions for you. On the report card piece, have you thought about, and maybe this will be part of the conversation next year, but how the data team meetings and the data you get from those will play into the timing for report cards, what's reported on the report cards, and kind of what you use to?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, and that's a
yeah.
big part of the timing of all of this is making sure that our 5-time-a-year data team meetings, all the assessments that we're doing, that they, right now, not all of them work perfectly. And that's, again, the need for a change.
No, that makes sense. And then my second question is, you mentioned the community service efforts that you're kind of putting into place, and the programming to the second graders, you know, kind of are in charge of cleaning up the playground and, you know, other things. Have you thought about what that might look like as you continue to grow it moving forward?
We've had a lot of conversation at the school level and then at grade levels as well, of just talking about how do we create something that we can have some onus of, so we can make this stronger, so it's not just within the Warren School, but in the Ashland community. With our younger grades, it does make sense that we're doing it more close-knit, because that way the children can see the impact of their actions, in addition to the cards and the letters that they're still writing, because we do want to maintain that. But I'm really looking to make some of those more of an impact in our community, not just in the Warren School property.
And not about the community service, but, well, we mentioned that, you know, Mendez has been sort of a model for the community service. And I want to mention publicly that the Warren School has really been a model for how we're moving forward with data in the district. And as we make that a huge priority next year, we're going to be really revamping and improving all of our MTSS strategies district-wide. We're going to be following the processes and procedures that Pete and his staff have put into place, because they truly are the model for our entire district of how to run quality, effective, efficient, meaningful data team meetings. One of the things that we did this year is Christy Arnold, Brittany Hawkins, myself, Jen Taylor, we all went and observed different data team meetings that were happening throughout their district. And every time we went to see one happen at Warren, there was just a clear difference in how it's working there. And they're utilizing the data so effectively. They're coming out of those meetings with true, meaningful plans that are going to have, that have had impactful results for our students. And, you know, it goes without saying that the S3 piece has been a huge part of that, but Pete and his team have gone so far beyond what S3 is even offering. And their work has been so fantastic, and I wanted to make sure that he gets a little public praise for the work they've done and the folks who have participated in those teams, especially Erica. Erica has led a lot of those meetings, and she really does a nice job. And teachers come out of there with real actionable work that they can help to make true intervention strategies that are having great impact on our students. So kudos to the whole Warren crew for all they're doing in that area.
Thank you.
It's great to hear.
Thank you.
Okay. Assistant Superintendent's report? Warrant approvals, okay.
It's not linked. I gotta bring it up. Between May 15th, 2025 and May 28th, 2025, I, Paul Kendall, authorized by my signature payables in the amount of $1,300,194.56. This includes general fund expenses of $905,775.29, revolving expenses of $384,557.36, and grant expenses of $9,785.87, and meals tax expenses of $76.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent's report.
Really just that our seniors had their last day and they wrapped up, and it's going to be now a fun senior week for them next week. They're doing their finals now. So we're wishing them well. We hope they have a fantastic senior week next week when they have a boatload of activities leading up to our big day on June 6th for graduation. Other than that, I have nothing new to add from last week.
That's awesome. The proposed AHS cross-country trip to Vermont, fall of 2025.
Thank you for having us. One thing that I would like to start this conversation with is last year we came for our first annual, with our first annual application, and we talked a lot about team building. And as evident in September, when we brought some of our student athletes with us, you saw what a great time they had. I know that we have to talk about the logistics, and that's what these questions are about tonight. But Emily is our lead, and I will let her.
Yeah, so it's basically going to be the same format as we had last year. It's Friday to Monday of Labor Day weekend, so that first week that school's in session. We're going to go up to Vermont again. It's my parents' property. The kids camp outside, and then they make the food, and we go running, and we did a hike last year, swimming in the neighbor's pond. We went and visited their alpacas. We had movie night. We had an incredible talent show. Well, we called it the Talentless show. Not everyone had to have talent. Talent was optional, but it was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, we had a movie night with McFarland USA, which is a great cross-country movie. And I think the kids who went just had a great time. So we wouldn't make any changes to what we did last year. And well, I guess the only change we would make is last year it was $125 per student. This year it's $150. We came out even last year, but that's because the t-shirts got messed up, so we had some money refunded, and then some parents donated some food. So if those things don't happen this year, we just wanted to make sure we had it all covered. And if we're going to make it clear to the kids that if money is a concern or anyone can't afford it, we have money in our Clocker Club account that we can easily cover that. So the trip itself is optional, and we make that clear to the kids. And then if they need financial assistance, we can cover it.
When you guys came forward with this last year, and I think a couple other teams have done something similar, usually came in with a purpose and a goal. I'm wondering if you just speak to what that goal is and whether you felt like doing this program last year helped you in that respect. And I think usually around the area of team building, but I don't want to speak for you.
Right. Well, and I think that was first and foremost the goal. And I, knock on wood, limited drama, like the kids.
Always good.
But it was even impressive to us as we set these goals going in, but watching them all work together. There was always a plan, who's on meal prep, who's on meal setup, who's on meal cleanup. There was participation from everyone. We were kind of fortunate. We had a few Boy Scouts amongst us, so that helped.
And that actually gave some of the kids who, cross-country wise, that may not be their greatest skill, but we did not have a single match used. The Boy Scouts lit every fire with sticks. And so it was great because it gave every kid a chance to shine. They whittled, we have a team flag, and we told them they need to go find a flagpole in the woods. And they not only did that, but they got it and then whittled it and did they were working on it all weekend. So, that was nice to see that some kids who may not be specifically leaders on the team running wise got a chance to stand out. And then, for the meals, we had a red, white, and blue team and assigned them, they each had a lunch, a breakfast, and a dinner. And those teams were made of different grades and boys and girls, and we tried to split up all the friend groups so that, and I think a couple of kids commented afterwards that because of that, they got to know, kids that they may not really have to work with otherwise, so.
Did you see that have proved to have benefits throughout the season?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because even some of our practices are based on, who's the leader to, bring the group along. We have different levels of, ability in terms of running. So even that, it was not, impeding to them to say, go run with this kid, or, and even some of those kids have been on track, indoor and outdoor. So they're really, the skills keep going, which is great. The other thing that happened on the trip was, again, we have different levels of ability for the kids. So, making sure that there was a level of workouts and running for everybody. And there were a few that kind of held back, and there was at least enough of us.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, I think the one challenge I would say is that for the freshmen or the kids who are new to the team, it can be a little bit intimidating to, it's 2 weeks into practice and to be like, you're going to go away for a weekend and sleep in a tent with these people you just met. So I think that's one thing that this year we're going to try and reach out a little earlier, and then definitely emphasize to them that, it's not as scary as it sounds. And we had some freshmen go last year and they loved it. But I think that's, one thing that we want to work on this year is making sure that we get as many of them as we can. I know there were like 2 freshmen last year who keep saying, they're like, oh, we wish we went, but we didn't know. We didn't know if they were going to be bathroom. And they're all in on going this year. And so we just want to make sure we get all those kids.
All it takes is a few kids to spread the word.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
right.
So I'll probably duplicate some of the stuff we talked about last year, but logistically, how did things work last year, both from your perspective, and I also know leaving our meeting, there was stuff to work out, queries and all the other things for everybody going, including, I think, you said it was your parents' place
Yeah.
or whatever, so if they were going to be up there, quarried, and so how did the logistics go? What would you change, and things like that?
Yeah, so the parents that came are parents that were quarried, and I think this was a conversation, Jim, I don't know if I had it with you after the fact or Kevin, but because Emily's parents are in Vermont, the Massachusetts quarry wasn't going to do anything, so.
That's not true. A quarry's for us, it's not for them. It's for us to do
But
background.
nothing would show up.
It only shows mass records, it doesn't show Vermont.
Show out of state.
Yeah, unless you do the national fingerprint.
I'm sorry, I did check on that before. I wouldn't have discounted that. But yeah, so the same thing holds that, and Emily's parents are very willing to sign
If there's a
anything or-
Vermont
yeah,
version of the quarry
yeah.
that they need to get. I know actually
Absolutely.
both of them volunteer in
Yeah.
the schools up there, so they
So a
probably.
quarry only does Massachusetts things? It doesn't do any federal stuff?
Correct.
There's also a fingerprint,
There's a
which is a
fingerprint that
federal
does
one,
federal.
that's different.
Right.
Put it like this.
So they were not quarried, but the other parents that were involved absolutely were.
So like other logistics, it's like a 5-to-1, you said ratio roughly, right? Were they split into groups like, hey, you make sure, this chaperone ensures that they're keeping tabs on certain groups rather than just, hey, the parents are around or whatever? How did it work logistically? Would you change anything?
I mean, I guess when we were at the house/campsite, they were basically all visible, like they were around their tents. They played manhunt and were hiding once, but, they were all kind of visible to all of us. When we went running, we had someone, at the front, someone bringing up the rear, and then people kind of in the middle. And then same thing when we went hiking, and we went swimming once, and there were, I think, that was 2/3 of the kids maybe, because I know some of them
Right.
went into Hanover, and we had 3 adults there, so.
A few of the kids wanted to look at Dartmouth College, walk around there, so I took them and Emily and John and your dad took the kids.
And Jim, I know one of the other things that was going to be worked out afterwards was some of the medical stuff, like, hey, making sure they have first aid. How was what are you going to do in these events, and did that all get worked out and everything?
And we had a first aid kit, and
Yeah.
you had all the AED and everything.
Amy
Okay.
gives that to us.
Amy's our trainer. Yeah.
I think we
So
did have
if
one
no one
minor
knows who
fish
she
hook
is.
incident that was actually dealt with a Boy Scout, knew exactly what to do. But yeah, you had the first aid kit, and then I think we said this last year that it's about 10 miles from Hanover, where there's Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, which is your medical center. So if anything major happened, we're right there.
Yeah, fortunately, it was just cuts, minor cuts. That actually, we have worse things at track meets and cross country.
I think we had a blister and a fish hook.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Try to keep it that way.
Not for cross country.
It sounds to me like it's been a great experience and will continue to be. Any more questions or comments
No.
before we vote?
To approve the proposed high school cross-country trip to Vermont for the fall of 2025 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good summer.
Thank
You
you, you as
too.
well. Okay, the WACA request, that is, I was there the other day. They had asked me to come in and interview our students from the chorus who were going to be coming the next day to perform and be recorded. There were 40 of them. So, and they were amazing. And it turned out that I was available and I could run right over, and I was just so impressed with their talent and reminded about how much talent we have here on all different levels, right? The athletics and the debates and the music and all of it. But this was really special. While I was there, though, they asked me if I'd be willing to come periodically after our meetings and give a report on what happened at the meeting, because I guess Yolanda is doing that for the select board. I saw one posted the other day. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see it yet, but what they're looking for is just a 5-minute, 10-minute, on May 28th we met. These were the items on the agenda. It's just kind of a way to broadcast to the community what we discussed, another way to get some information out there about what we're doing. So my answer was just that, it sounds great, I'm available, I'd love to, but I want to talk to the committee, make sure it's something that you guys want, and also if there was somebody else dying to do it, give whoever an opportunity to throw their hat in. So that's the request. Number one, do you think it's a good idea? And number two, who wants to do it?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, just to, get more information out there, even though it's not going to be, the super in-depth, but just, these are the things people really interested, they can go find the minutes, they can watch the recording.
And tune in on Wednesday night.
They can tune
Right.
in, absolutely,
Right.
yeah. And, I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw the snippets that were on social media. You did an amazing job, so I vote you. I am more than happy to let you take the lead on that. I think it was great. It looked like a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, but like we usually pick people on committees in the summer, I just wanted to make sure before I said yes that it was supported by everybody. And again, the intent is not to go too deeply into
Right.
anything. It was really just a summary of what already happened. And it's more going to be a moving forward kind of thing, because we're probably only going to have one meeting left after this, because the other thing we were going to talk to you guys about was possibly not having the last meeting of the year because it's after school gets out and there's probably not going to be a need for it. So there's really only one meeting after this one as far as this year goes.
So were they looking to have somebody come after every single meeting or on a monthly
I can't
basis?
remember. Do you remember, Paul? It's either after every meeting, or after every, or maybe once a month, but yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay, so yeah, so it would be however often we have meetings, and if there is something, and actually I think it's a nice opportunity for us, it's a nice tool, if there's something that we're talking about, and sometimes I know we're wishing, like, if only people knew this, or even myself, if we didn't have these students coming in like we did this year, like there's so many things going on in the buildings that we might not otherwise know about if our kids aren't in those buildings anymore. So things that we see at the meeting that we want to highlight, it's an opportunity.
I think it aligns with our policy that you speak for us anyways, and if you're willing to do it, I think it's great.
Sure.
And I'll just throw it out to Paul that when we do have those student things in our meetings and you talk about it, maybe he can just splice that onto the end of that so that they get an abridged version for, somebody wants the abridged version of what happened, but also the parents can have the snippet of just when the students did their stuff in our meetings. That'd be really good.
That's a great idea. And I think that the choir coming in, and I don't want to speak for WACA, but I think that them coming in was like such a success and such a nice thing for everybody, right? Like for parents, for the students, for all of us that were there witnessing it. It's just making probably everybody think of more opportunities to do more of that. Like let the kids go in there and be showcased on TV, in addition to even coming in here, you know?
I think this kind of follows on to, if you remember last year when we had the mistake where we didn't get the coverage for the students in here, and then WACA went to Warren and did something.
Right.
I think this is just a
We all
building.
tried to record with our phones or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. But I think it ended up being better that they went and did a
Right.
special on them.
Yeah,
So I
it
think
was kind of special for them. The kids
Yeah,
were really
so,
excited about it, and it was very professionally done, and they do such a great job over there. So anyhow,
I'll just add my support for it too. I think it aligns with things we've talked about for years about better communicating what we're doing. I think while it's not the exact same thing as we've talked about, like showcasing our successes as a district, I think it's a great opportunity to show the successes of our kids, which is more important than sort of talking about it as a structural thing, right? It's really showing how special they are and their unique talents and all that. And I think I would support you doing it. I think if there's a time when you're not able to, anybody else from the committee who can pinch it for you is great.
awesome,
But otherwise, let's go forward.
perfect. Thank you. Okay. School committee summer retreat dates. Jim can weigh in, but I'll just start too. But I know Jim put out some possibilities. The one where most of us were available, Marcy is not available. And I know it's like such an important meeting that we try to only do it when everybody is available, and I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But also, you know, budget is a big part of what we need to talk about, and Marcy is such a great contributor in that area that I, for one, you know, would love to make it possible for her to be there. So in order to do that, we need to come up with another potential date. And I asked Jim, Mark and I asked Jim about, you know, how important is it that it even happens this summer? Because if there's nothing urgent that needs to get settled before September, could we start the meeting start finding dates after the summer if we really can't come up with a week when we're all in town? So we talked about potentially September. I did chat with Marcy today. Her suggestion was maybe end of June, while things are still fresh in our mind and we have data and whatever. I know Mark's away for some of those dates. So, I mean, this could go on, but I guess we should at least try to expand our time frame a little bit and see if we can't find a date that includes everybody. And so I don't know how y'all feel about that.
I just want to add to that. So when we sat and talked with Jim about the agenda setting last week, I guess it was, right? We started to have that discussion about was there anything that we needed to work on this summer, right? Was there that big policy level stuff like strategic plans? And of course, we're in the middle of one, right? We don't have that. We really didn't feel that there was sort of that big high level thing, except looking at sort of long-term budgeting. And so when we kind of realized that was what we thought would be sort of the focal point of the discussion, we thought, you know what, doing that in September, which is just an earlier lead-in to the budget than we typically have, so that probably works pretty well. And of course, Jim told us he already started working on next year's budget, so.
And I would imagine it then gives, because one of the things about doing a retreat in June is most of the time, Jim and others want some time to prepare for the things we're going to discuss. And if it's
And a little bit of a break.
piggybacked on the end of the year, then they
Right.
probably don't have the ability to prepare, right?
Right,
So-
it need a break and to get refreshed and everything. It's been a lot this year. So, and then I guess if it is September, do we want a Saturday or, I mean, we usually, I'm not speaking for myself, I'm speaking for all of you, but usually people do end up taking a day off for the summer retreat. So if a weekday is a possibility, we can shoot for that. If you prefer not to look at weekdates, then we would have to look at Saturdays. Marcy had a concern about that. She has more kids than we all do that are still involved in all of the activities, so that is a bit of a challenge for her. So again, I don't know that we're ever going to find the perfect time or date, but we just want to put a little bit more effort into trying. So I don't know, how are people feeling in general about September?
I mean, it sounds like it doesn't seem like there are any issues that you need our input on before the beginning of the school year. There's nothing that we maybe need to, decide or kind of collectively come up with our, thoughts on before the school year starts. So I think September makes sense. I think it's beneficial to have all of us there. So I think I would agree to wait for when Marcy would be available. And in terms of timing, I mean, with enough advance notice, a weekday would be fine for me. It's just a matter of planning ahead, so.
I think my only concern with the weekday, I mean, I'm like Tina, as long as it's far enough in advance I can make it work, is it possible for you guys, for both of you and Chris, people who all participate in this stuff, to really be focused on that, to block out all the other stuff that happens day to day? Because I'm guessing your phone rings a few times during the day, and
We're at the point where, again, I think we have these conversations even in our admin team meetings now. It's, unless, Rome is burning, leave us alone. Let us do our work and let us have, no, seriously.
Give
it's
us a
sort of-
day. Give us a
we
couple
can
hours.
We can take
Yeah.
a few hours. We can take a half a day. We can take a day. If something was so urgent, they know where to find us.
But to piggyback on your thought, most of the time when we have these, unless you're talking about macro level budget
Yeah.
stuff, when we start talking about, hey, how does this affect Bill? We typically bring in
Correct.
Our administrators too, and so to piggyback on that, that seems like a big ask that we're pulling you, Mike, Chris, and potentially other building administrators in during school.
Well, but then the other flip side of it is we're asking them to give up a Saturday. So but I think it depends, I guess, on what's on the agenda. If it was the kind of year where we really need everybody, then obviously it's an issue. If we're talking about like a person here or there, depending on what we want to talk about, then it's probably not an issue. But
No,
have you thought about some of the agenda items?
I think our focus will be
Budget?
financial and where it was pretty evident at town meeting, right? When not just the school committee, but select board as well as the FinCom in their statements and their comments about, we really need to dig deeply into where we are as a community. And even before I would bring in principals or directors, I think we need to sit around the table and have these thoughtful discussions as to what it is we're trying to accomplish. And then we bring in the micro level, if you will. So I think we have to look at it from a macro standpoint.
starting point of the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like Tina, like I said, I'm happy to try to find a day in September. I'm just pulled up my calendar, of course,
You can.
because I can.
You're here.
I-
And Marcy said the same thing, with enough notice, she could take a day from work if it's
Yeah, and I guess the only other thing is, how do our conversations around that parlay into conversations you need to have with Michael, that we need to maybe have with the select board and FinCom? And is there, just from a timing perspective, of waiting until that time to have our conversation and then iterate through whatever, is that going to compress any other conversations that you think might need to happen?
I don't think so, Paul.
In the latter part of the year.
I don't think so, because I think any of the conversations that, say, Chris and I might have over the summer, once we, close out the year, which takes quite a while even through August, then we're knee-deep in 25, 26, but then starting to look at 26, 27 already, and we are. I think the process of those communicating with the select board, FinCom, and Michael, I don't think he's going to be in a position right now with the turnover he's had and onboarding of people within the general government. He's got a lot on his plate right now, and I think we need as even an admin team, as part of our retreat this summer, will be to talk a little bit about where we are in terms of the district and our needs from a resource standpoint. So I think having our conversations before we come together will be really beneficial. So we'll have a taste of what principals are thinking, what directors are thinking in September. And I was pretty clear with them the other day about our budget already for 26, 27. I said, it's probably a year we're not asking folks to continue to include more personnel. I think we've got to really take a deep, hard look at what we have again in terms of human capital and move from there.
I think it's maybe premature to try to answer this question, but one of the thought I'd put out there is, to what extent might we need or would we benefit from some discussion with Michael or somebody from his office that he designates to talk a little bit about what they're seeing. I think we did a lot of that work, in the couple of tri-board meetings. I obviously wasn't able to make the second one, so I missed some stuff that's important, and I'm not looking to repeat. But if we think that there's benefit of hearing that part of the dialogue, asking or coordinating when he might be available, or somebody might be available from town hall to sort of talk about what they're seeing. I just say let's think about that.
Sure.
Part of the dialogue.
Yeah, Michael and I typically have a July, August timeframe where we come together just to talk about the beginning of the next year.
So can we have you throw out some potential September dates that would at least work for the three of you? And in the meantime, you guys can send over any blackout dates.
Not the last week.
Right.
Not the last week of
Yeah,
September.
I think I'm out of town the last.
Yeah.
Okay.
The works.
We will send we'll
kind of
take it,
poll.
we'll
Give
do
us
it,
a
we'll do
few
a doodle
options.
poll.
Yeah.
So one additional thing, one of the things, Mike, that you've been able to do during our summer retreats the past couple of years is kind of an in-depth discussion of the data teams and how all of that is implementing what the data is showing. And I always love to get those updates. And so, if we're gonna push this to September, just kind of putting the bug in your ear. Obviously, that doesn't have to happen at a retreat, right? And so just kind of, I would love an update on that at some point. It doesn't have to happen next meeting in 2 weeks or whenever that is. But either at whenever we put together the retreat, or just at a regular school committee meeting at the beginning of the year. Because I think, I enjoy hearing that data because we're doing a good job, and I love hearing about the work that's happening. I think it's really impactful. Since it's been expanded to Mendez, I'd love to hear an update on what that looks like. And I think it's really nice to be able to share that as well, too. So just to put the bug in your ear, whenever it happens, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't need to be at a retreat, but I've always appreciated that you've been able to share that during the retreat.
No, that's actually a good reminder, Tina, for me to say. So if anybody has suggested agenda items, because the agenda can be whatever we want it to be. I mean, budget is something that we have to talk about, but we also, this is our opportunity to bring forward the kinds of things that we want to take a deeper dive into. We may end up talking a little bit more about our evaluation process, which you can bring up in a few minutes. Marcy still has questions about fields and things like that. So anyhow, what I'm saying is, this is the time, because we only have one more meeting this year, and then Mark and I will probably sit down with Jim, just maybe one more or two more times before everybody breaks for the summer. So now's the time to let us know if you have a request for the retreat agenda. And anything is appropriate, and then we can figure out what makes sense time-wise and priority-wise, and anything that doesn't get covered there will get covered eventually. So,
And in terms of what Tina's looking for, actually moving it to September makes a lot more sense from my perspective, because typically when I'm talking to you in the summer, a lot of the data that I want to talk to you about has been embargoed, so I can't really talk about it anyways.
Okay.
So hopefully by that point, I'll have
It could be a more
data
robust
that can be
discussion.
more of a robust
Right.
discussion about our MCAS data,
Yeah.
and not simply the in-house data that we utilize. So it might be helpful from that
Sure,
perspective.
that makes sense.
okay, good. So we have a plan forward. Superintendent's evaluation process.
So I shared within the folder a link to, it says a copy of the summative evaluation. You can download that form and then use it for your own written, this isn't your written evaluation. What I wrote in here is I will have to you for the 20, that's pretty good, 2025, 2050 school year, that by May 30th, I'll have a document and a folder set up so you can start reviewing some of the data. I've asked that by June 8th that you provide Lori with your evaluation. It's the same process we've always undertaken, filling out this form. You'll notice in here I have listed the 7 goals that were set at the beginning of the year. Some are long-term, some are not long-term, some are going to be met, some are not going to be met. And your process, again, is to go through it. It starts on page, the indicators, really on page 33, or where the goals are. So you can download this in Word or Google and then type in it. And that's what you can provide to Lori, or you can do a narrative, however you want to do it. I'm just trying to provide you the template for the summative, and I will provide my own narrative and my own rating that I always do. I do a self-reflection and provide it to you. So I will share those folders with you. I just wanted you to know that this document, please don't take this, download it into your own so you have it, as opposed to writing in this one, because then everybody's writing in it.
I assume you only shared it read-only anyway.
Say that again.
I assume you only shared it read-only anyway to us.
I probably didn't, but if you copy it, then you have the ability to edit it and download it. So it was June, what did I say? June 11th is our next meeting. So that gives Lori 3 days, unless Lori wants it earlier.
I'm fine with that.
I put it in.
She doesn't get any earlier when she.
Well, correct, right.
Somehow we think if we make the deadline earlier, that people will do it earlier, but it
No,
doesn't
it
really
doesn't
happen
happen.
anyway.
We know
That's
that.
okay. It's as long as it's not like the morning of kind of thing.
Right.
And so that it leaves me like scrambling to put it all together.
Yeah.
Because it does take
yeah.
a little bit of, try to get it cohesive.
Right. And again,
But-
in the end, as we have these conversations with our educators and our administrators, it's, we've got the 4 standards plus an overall rating. That's what we report to the state, are those ratings. The conversation I'll have in the future is about the evaluation itself. We have evaluator, professional status teachers who are on 2-year cycles. So halfway through, which is a year in, you do a formative assessment. And so you're not looking at the ratings at that point in time. A lot of school districts and superintendents, the superintendent's rubric is actually designed for that. If your superintendent is proficient, you just do a rating every 2 years. We have always done a yearly evaluation, partly because, in my mind, it was merit-based pay. It was based on the summative evaluation. We've moved away from that for my contract. So it's sort of, we may not need to do that, but again, it'll be a choice. We'll lays out the pros and cons as to summative and formative.
Retreat agenda item.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
Exactly what it is. So we
That's
talked
what I
about
had
it.
shared with Jim when
Yeah.
he brought it up
Yeah.
with me earlier. I thought it was more appropriate for a
Correct.
in-depth, because I just want to understand. I think there's one thing in terms of like dealing with Jim, of course, because we've worked together for so long. And at this point,
Right.
we know your strengths and weaknesses, like everything,
it was-
you're
yeah.
fabulous and you know that we think that and whatever, but it's also kind of preserving a process for the next
Right. It was a
person and the next
conversation
committee.
that
and-
came up within our superintendent's roundtable.
Yeah.
How many folks are on yearly summatives versus the 2-year plans for a formative and a summative?
Right, until Jim told me, I didn't even know the 2-year was a thing.
Right.
And, the only input I had now, without really delving into like the pros and cons, I mean, at least on this committee, when we do the formative, there's a lot more work that gets put into the summative than the formative. And I want, whatever process we have, I want it to be meaningful.
Right.
That's all. So,
And you want all the members to have the proper input.
Yep.
To carry forward. So if we did it on a 2-year cycle and somebody left during,
That's right.
in between, we'd want to ensure that they have the
Yeah.
ability to, their comments carry forward into the summative, and that puts the onus actually on you or whoever's aggregating that stuff.
Right, like
And
it's
that's the
not like
downside
I'm-
to it, right?
right.
Again, that's why it's a good conversation, I think, for a summer topic.
yeah.
Exactly.
So-
And again, I'm not looking to change it, I'm just saying,
No.
the formative does have pros and cons to it, and the pros from a logistical standpoint, it's less time consuming for sure.
Right.
You're focused on the goals themselves mainly, and you're
Right.
saying, okay, where do we stand with the goals, what goal attainment, what do we need to adjust? We sort of try to do that in mid-cycle, in a January, February timeframe, to say, hey, Jim, what's happening? That's sort of what the formative
So
is.
let's put it on there, and
Yeah.
Jim, if you can come with, hey, if we were to move to there, what would you recommend? Because would we not do that mid-year, is this,
And that's what formative
you know,
is.
is a formative,
Mid-cycle.
is a
They call it
formative,
mid-cycle.
is
Yeah.
a form, because we're only doing it annually, so.
Right.
Or is that check-in?
Yeah.
A good thing for you, that mid-year check-in, you know, so kind of lay out those,
Yep.
how that would work, and
Sure.
then what your thoughts are on it, and we can have
Right.
a good,
Okay.
good conversation.
Perfect. Yep.
All right, so that's that.
So if you have questions, though, as always, call me and say, hey, you know, Jim, can I get more evidence on X? And we'll try to provide it. So again, all of our goals, and we've had this conversation from the administrative side, they're all intertwined, all of us, in terms of our goal setting. And, you know, Mike, for instance, share one, working with the AEA, coming out of our negotiations with our evaluation tool, and whether we had, you know, we didn't perform as many walkthroughs, partly because Mike has been really working hard with AEA to revamp and look at whatever evaluation system we're going to use in the rubrics. Eventually, that has to come before you, because that's part of the negotiated contract, is the evaluation cycle tool.
Right.
And it was out of nowhere, Kristen Scully actually wrote me a nice email, which I'll share as evidence, saying, hey, we didn't get everything accomplished this year, but we've made a lot of progress, and we're going to continue to make progress in standards 3 and 4 next year. We've worked on standards 1 and 2, and while you guys didn't meet your goals, we understand, like, so they're sort of recognizing it as well. So it's good.
That's good just to hear from,
Yeah.
you know, with the changeover.
Yeah.
The collaboration is still going forward.
Right.
and-
Very close.
Right.
We still meet every Friday morning, she
great.
and I, and yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, it's great.
Excellent. Okay, next up is
Policies.
policies. We did have a subcommittee meeting. My best recollection is most of these policies had minor changes.
Yeah, so maybe we'll.
We'll go through.
we'll Just give
Paul,
you,
you want to, yeah,
because you obviously see some in the consent agenda right
Right.
now, so
Right.
we had a conversation about what do we do, because part of what we're doing in the policy subcommittee is Jim has the goal to go through all the policies.
That's 3 years.
And it's not necessarily, hey, we certainly are addressing ones we think we need change first, but we're still also just going through them. So we're kind of tiering them in 3 tiers. Ones that are, hey, either we just want to mark them reviewed, or there's just some very minor cleanup that there's not really notable changes to them. So those we'll be putting in the consent agenda. You can obviously always pull them out if you think there's something needs to be addressed in them, but and then there are ones that we might put on, and maybe put them all in the first read. I thought we had one that fit in the middle category that, here, but I don't see it. Then we might put it it's just an agenda item because it's not substantive enough for our to-read policy to trigger that. But we just want to note something. Hey, there's a notable change, but not something that would rise to the level of, hey, it's a significant enough for.
right.
That'd be listed
Yeah,
as like for approval that time,
Right.
but independently.
Right.
Right.
But not need a second read because nothing's
Because the consent
substantive.
agenda, we're not going to discuss at all, where that one is like, hey, we want to just point out what we did here.
Right, like there are a couple things where they just changed like the vocabulary.
I forget which one it was, Paul.
But
I may have
yeah,
included it in
where they
consent. I
turned
may
it-
have, yeah.
Yeah, which is fine.
Wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't blatantly, hey, put it in the middle, but, so
Do
there's
you
those two.
want to go through, Paul, and
Yeah, and then,
policy
and
by
then
policy?
the ones that obviously trigger
Yeah.
more substantive thing of the first read, second read things. Just to give you an idea of, now you're seeing stuff in consent agenda, we just kind of talked about how we lay it out in meetings to be efficient.
So with the policies, like the first read policies, and I'll preface this by saying Jen King, our attorney on record, has reviewed these policies. I share, especially the ones that have significant changes. All of these policies have been redlined to meet MASC recommendations after general law changes. And what I've done is made sure that if there are significant changes, all these first policies have gone to Jen King. And for instance, I'll give an example of one where she just got back to me, and we had a conversation with regard to student discipline, JIC. And it related to whether we can use the term principal and/or designee for suspensions. And the answer is yes and no at the same time. But she recommends having the designee in certain areas because deans, assistant principals can be the authoritative figure in issuing a suspension and then informing the superintendent if it's a 37 H and 3/4 violation. which is significant.
Yeah.
So, but if it's 37H and 37H and a half, which are potential for exclusion, those have to come through as a principal. So it's a good delineation.
Right.
And that's where Jen's like, yeah, we can put it here, and we should, because you do grant authority when the principal, for a dean or an assistant principal, to perform a suspension, if need be, in-house and/or out of school. So it's in the certain areas where she's recommended it, and that's it. The hazing, this policy, she's like, no, we like it the way it is, the way you've written it, the way it's adjusted because of MASC. So.
Yeah, and when we come to those things, this is where the balance of varying greatly from the MSC template versus doing our own, that's a situation where a section that defines terms, and then you use the term, and then it would, in there you can say, this, whatever you deem the person that can issue the suspension or whatever, and you lay out those conditions, you do it there, and then you use that term, and the rest of it, that would be the cleanest way to do it, as opposed to remembering which sections you can say designee. But I don't, so we'll talk about whether there's a time when it makes sense to say, hey, let's do it this way, because it's cleaner and easier to maintain that way.
All right, should we go through one by one? Let's start with student absence and excuses, JH.
I'm having trouble accessing the Google Drive.
Okay. So I can.
If you're able to just summarize what the change was,
Well,
Jim?
If it's my stuff, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think this one was a lot of stuff, right? So changing terminology from child to student.
And adding
Right.
guardians. I'm sharing it right here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really, it's moving a couple things around.
It
No
added some,
substantive.
Nothing
Nothing
substantive.
substantive.
And again, I can't think of anything we looked at that was substantive
there wasn't
in
anything
nature.
significant the other day.
It was just
yeah.
updating, this is, again, it was 2014, after, it was 2021, and MASC updated it, and we had not updated it.
Yeah, now that we have this up there was one that was primarily just updating the references, right?
Yes, yeah.
I can't remember which one it was, and that was the one that we were gonna.
Move over.
Yeah.
So I mean, going through them, I think it's important, because they are first reads, that if you want to go ahead and,
I guess
the only thing it would have
for me
been.
personally, Jim,
Yep.
to all of you who've been working on it, say, I'll take a closer look. I think what I'm most interested in is, are there substantive changes in any of the policies that
No,
you think we really ought to hammer out?
No.
no.
If it's just wording, personally, I'll
Yep.
always defer to the committee. 'Cause
Yep.
it's been-
Yeah, so the overwhelming majority of these are changes to align with the updated MASC policies.
Correct.
And there were a
Mass
couple
general
that,
laws,
and there were a couple that we asked Jim, hey, you make sure Jen checks this one, and obviously she has, so for the most part, it's aligning with there, and so I guess you would double checks, both MASC and Jen has taken a look at it, so. But there were enough changes where it's like, okay, let's do a two-read. Because at the end of the day, unless we need to enact it earlier, what's the harm in two reads? It gives more people more
It
time to
is
look
the
at
end
it.
of May.
Right.
Right.
But none of them were
Right.
really like debate worthy, there was nothing that we talked about the other day that like, oh, wow, we're gonna really wanna dig into this. They were really just aligning with the law. Yeah,
No.
so,
I mean, personally, you guys want to go through it policy by policy, that's fine. I don't have the need to. I'll look at it more carefully, and if there are questions I've got, I'll reach out to one of you. just for
yeah, I mean, I
clarification.
prefer to handle it, like if people have a question or a concern on a particular policy, then you can bring it forward and we'll answer that for you to the best of our ability. But if not, then there's no reason for us to just sort of rehash. I mean, it's vetted through the subcommittee,
Right.
and then anything that we had concern about, we vetted through our attorney.
Most of this isn't our input, so typically if it was a first read and we had, hey, this is what we wanted to do, we would be noting that to you.
Right.
The overwhelming majority of this is, hey, going back, realigning it with an updated policy, and potentially any updates agended. So I'd concur with Mark. if there was something on there like, hey, when we modified it, we added this,
Right.
I think we should summarize it and to make sure you're highlighting the stuff that came from us, but most of this did not.
Just, like you saw, things jumping at me as I'm looking at the agenda.
Yep.
You have 2 references to JICFA, prohibition of hazing and hazing. Is that one policy or the letter's wrong?
No, it's
Or is it a dash E?
It's a
It's
dash.
E.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
its own
dash.
category. We
Yeah.
spent some time talking about
Yeah.
what that was. We had to investigate that as well,
Yeah.
but it is its own little category
Yeah.
for some reason. And I know R stands for regulation, but I don't know what E stands for.
Right.
Yeah, well, I don't think we ever got to the bottom of what it stands
Right.
for, but we looked
But
at
we
it.
did look- we did look at
We
the
looked at it and
policy.
said,
Yeah. Right, like, we're
it's-
not gonna fight
we're not
about
gonna
the,
get,
right.
we saw no reason to get rid of it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we want to, how are we approaching it? Are we going to vote them all
Well, this will
tonight?
be, these are first.
They're all
reads.
their first reads
So
anyway.
we're just going to move on to the next subject, and then we will have the second read at the next meeting.
So take some time to go
Right.
through those.
And then which will probably be the last policies for this school year, because we don't have any
Right.
enough meetings left to do first and second reads. Consent
I mean, the only
agenda,
thing we would do is, I mean, if we had some for consent agendas, we could put those on.
right.
Well, and we can still do updates and stuff
Yep,
like
yep.
that in
Right.
in preparation for, and we could, do a first read it.
Sure.
You guys bored over the summer, you want to come in with 40 of them that are all ready for a consent agenda in September.
Jim's got to get through this, that's in his goal.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
We've never found a policy we couldn't write.
Exactly. All right, who's got a motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have gifts and donations?
All part of
We just voted those.
Okay,
I don't have to do that anymore. remember?
well
Can we
then,
go back to the first order of business, the organization?
well, there's nothing new here. Same old, same old. And I still got rehired.
It wasn't on our paper that she printed out
Yeah,
a week
right,
ago.
right.
Exactly. I printed this out today.
Really? It's that beat up already?
Before you go into your school committee member reports, I do want to remind folks that the 11th is when we recognize our retirees as well.
Yeah.
So that'll be a 5 o'clock start downstairs. Okay?
5:30, Jim.
I think correction may have put 5, but typically 5:30 is.
I think 5:30 was the invite I got.
Yeah, me
Okay, she
too.
did put 5:30?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. 5:30 it is.
Okay. Reports, Abhishek.
Yes, so this has been kind of a chaotic past couple weeks. AP exams have just finished, and this past Friday, as Dr. Kyra alluded to, we said goodbye to our seniors. And they had a couple meetings. They had a meeting today, and they're going over what they're doing senior week, graduation, and class day, and all those things. They're getting right into that. But right now, we're more turning to final exams, which will be coming in around 2 to 3 weeks. So I'll see you guys right when that's about to happen. But final exams and school elections are also happening. So I'm up for re-election for this position as well.
Do you have do you have an opponent?
I think there's 6 people running and 5 slots, so I think we have one opponent. But a lot of grades have very high participation. As you get to senior and juniors, it kind of dwindles down as things get more set in. But we're looking to a competitive election season and the conclusion of the school year. So it's been a pleasure meeting with you guys.
Oh my gosh, it's been so great
Yeah.
to have you.
Yeah,
And if you're busy studying for finals, we totally,
I got one final. I'll be here. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Because
How'd you swing that?
I took a lot of AP exams.
Oh.
So yeah, that's worse. Yeah, but at least you're getting it done, and
But it's done
hopefully,
faster,
right,
yeah.
exactly, and hopefully you'll get yourself some college credits.
Yeah.
Tina?
Well, and Abhishek may want to add to this as well too, but the junior class had their prom a couple of weeks ago. It seems like it was a smashing success. Everyone, seemed to have a good time. You may want to add in.
Yeah, I mean, prom was amazing. The venue was very beautiful. It was sunrise on the lake. And we got some amazing pictures. Grand March was great too. It was just an amazing time.
Oh, good.
You all looked great. It seemed to be a lot of fun. And let's see, what else? I haven't been to any substantive meetings. There hasn't been an AshPAC meeting since we last met, but I was able to go to the last performance of the band last week, and they, honored their seniors, and it was a great performance, so they all did great. That's about it for my updates.
Thank you.
Oh, and no, not tomorrow. Friday's the reality fair, which I'm looking forward to, one of my favorite events of the year. Yeah.
I'm probably forgetting bunches of things, so I don't really have much to report. I went to the Grand March as well, saw all them off, and seemed to be, went off pretty well, so.
Just the reality fair organizational meeting that we were at a week and a half ago, and also looking forward to the reality fair on Friday morning, most of the day.
Awesome. And I don't have anything to add. I already shared the WACA stuff. And I guess before we come back, right, is going to be graduation and class day.
Correct.
So, class day starts at what time? 9, 10?
9:15.
9:15?
And I don't want to elongate the meeting, but I did forget to mention how amazing the high school art show was. I was able to attend the high school art show
went
at
to
Art
that.
Saves
Yeah,
Ashland.
oh, good, yeah.
And the work that our students do is just, it's
amazing.
it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I saw so many different pieces that were on display that I would have paid for. It was just amazing work that they do. So our art department at Ashland High School has much to be proud of.
I mean, to that, I mean, Mike and I had a nice morning this morning. One of our young ladies, Rebecca Kriesman, participated in the MIA State Girls Golf Championships today and finished 5th.
Wow, good for her.
Yeah, and I don't remember how many players were there, but hundreds. And she, great. So Mike and I went over and watched 5 holes of her play this morning. She actually
that's
played at my
awesome.
golf course, which was great. And she's just, as always, she's just this big bundle of smiles.
She's a great kid.
Great kid.
Yeah.
And
Talented.
proud of how she rebounded well. I mean, she started out not playing well, but then had a great rest of the day. And I think shot 78 maybe today, which was amazing. Top
Do that
5.
just once.
Top 5. Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
Good for her.
Well, let's make
For
a
her
note.
second round of the year.
Maybe
like,
next
in
year
the
we
spring,
can have them
because
bring
she played
some of the
softball.
artwork.
So her dad was telling us it was only her second 18-hole round of the year.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah. Yeah, that was it.
No, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. That was one of the things I forgot.
Yeah, the arts. Yeah, it's always the best with Scott. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
everyone.
So there is